Welcome to Memory Maps. Today we're going to be making the continent of Europe. You're going to need a few materials for this. You're going to need a piece of paper, as long as it's 8.5 by 11. Any paper will do. This is what it's been scaled to. You're going to need a ruler and you're going to need a pencil. Okay, we're going to identify our ruler hand, which is the opposite hand that we write with. You're going to make sure your ruler hand stays with your ruler hand, and you're going to make sure you're writing so that you can see what you're doing. If you've got to turn your paper, make sure you do that so that you're not crisscrossing. If you're a lefty, you're simply going to do this so that you're writing and you can see what you're doing. Okay, so let's get started. You're going to find the edge of the paper and not the edge of your ruler, but the first tick mark of your ruler, and you're going to measure down 3 inches. This is going to make your first latitude line. Latitude lines are horizontal lines going across. Latitude makes your mouth go a little bit flat with your smile. So that's why I like to remember latitude lines are going across. Okay, the next one you're going to make is your next latitude line, which you're going to fold the bottom of your paper up to match that line. And then you will, I like to put little tick marks because it is hard to see sometimes on the fold, especially with the shadows. So that way I can measure my ruler up so that I can see it. Okay, the next thing we're going to do, we're going to just adjust this so I can see it a little bit better. Okay, great. Next thing we're going to do is make 2 longitude lines. We're going to mark out from the edge of your paper 2 inches. Now we're going to do up and we're going to do down because we're going to make lines going up and down. Longitude makes your mouth go long. So that's how I try to remember longitude lines. Okay, and then we're going to go to the other side of your paper, mark 1 up at the top, 1 at the bottom, and then line them up with your ruler, both, and you're going to make a line going down for both your longitude lines. Okay, so you should have at this point 2 longitude lines, 2 latitude lines, and on your paper. Okay, the first one is going to be 30 degrees, and the next one's going to be the prime meridian. I like to say, capitalize everything except for the word of, write neatly. And this one's going to be the Arctic. Your first latitude line is going to be the Arctic circle. So tricky little C in there. And then this one is 40 degrees. I'm going to put it below the line just because I'm about to put a country there and it gives me enough space to do so. Okay, the next thing we're going to do is we're going to put about a quarter size circle, and that's going to be Iceland. Okay, then above for the 40-degree mark, we're going to make a dime size circle, and then I'm going to chop off the top of it. This is going to be Ireland, and I chopped off the top because the top of it is Northern Ireland, which I'm going to identify with an N, Northern Ireland, because that's actually part of the United Kingdom. They're 2 separate places. So, even though they're in the same landmass. Okay, then we're going to go on the prime meridian. We're going to go about halfway from the Arctic circle to 40 degrees, and we're going to find the halfway mark, and we're going to go just to the left. That is going to be the top of the United Kingdom. Then we're going to follow that line down, and we're going to go find the corner. I like to call these little spider web corners. If you've watched any of my other videos, imagine a little spider coming out here from a bookshelf. You're going to put a dot here, and then just on the other side of that, about the equal distance, we're going to put another dot, and that's going to be the bottom part of Ireland. Okay, so we've now got a triangle for the United Kingdom, which obviously is not a triangle. There's lots of different curves, but to make it a little bit easier to draw and to recognize, we're going to make it as a triangle. Okay, now I'm going to chop off the top of it just like I did the same. Now notice that I'm turning my paper because I always want to be able to see where I am writing. Okay, I'm gonna chop this off just like I did with Ireland, and this one's gonna be Scotland. The United Kingdom is made up of few places, and so we wanna designate those spots. I'm gonna find the corner of the line I just made. Now notice that I didn't really measure that out. I just kind of said, it's about an inch, and chopped it off. The corner of this to the corner of the country, I'm gonna find the middle, about the middle-ish. And that's gonna be Wales. Now, sometimes when places are pretty small, instead of just making a country, like making another shape, I just put a dot because it's just easier to signify. Okay, this one's called the United Kingdom. Okay. And then also part of the United Kingdom is actually Great Britain or England. So I'm gonna put Great Britain down here just to identify that it's still here, but that's actually part, like all of this. So United Kingdom covers all of these areas. And then this section right here is Great Britain. Okay, great. So we've made our first continent. We're gonna jump over to this side of our map, and this is going to make the Norway, Sweden, Finland trio. So the first thing we're gonna do, top of your paper to the Arctic Circle, about halfway, we're gonna put a mark. This is gonna identify the top of this little trio. Then we're gonna find the corner of the Arctic Circle and the prime meridian, and we're gonna go about from the corner about an inch. So I just kind of eyeball it a little bit. Then I'm gonna go about another inch, and if you wanna use your ruler, you can, but you don't have to. And then I'm gonna go about another inch. Now I've got kind of like a triangular thing happening here. So first I'm gonna make the triangle for Norway, which we're going to go down, make that first thing. Now if you overshoot your lines like that, that's why I like to use a pencil, just so you can tidy it up. Okay, this one is Norway. Now I'm gonna make Sweden. So I'm gonna find this little intersection here where the line for Norway and the Arctic Circle intersect. And I'm gonna go down about an inch here, and then I'm gonna block that out. So now I've got, this one's Norway, Sweden, and then Finland. I'm gonna go find the corner of Sweden, go down about an inch, follow that and jump over the 30-degree mark, that longitude line, and then make another dot, and that's gonna finish out Sweden. So or Finland, excuse me. So I'm blocking that out and then just going straight down here. Okay, now we've got Finland. Now the next one's kind of fun because it's just a line. So if you find here, the top of the line and the Arctic Circle, we're just gonna draw a line across. That's gonna identify that Russia is this over here. Russia is actually what we call a transcontinental country, which means it covers multiple different continents. This is Russia's part of Europe, and it's part of Asia. So, and they usually define it as the dividing line at the Ural Mountains, which if we were to continue drawing this map, it'd be somewhere over here. So here we go. Since it's only a little bit of Russia, we just draw a little line and call it a day. Okay, now let's jump down to the bottom of our paper, and we're gonna start with our Spain, France. We're just gonna kind of work our way this way. So, the first one we're gonna do is to make Spain, we're gonna find the middle, right where the Great Britain is, and then the bottom of your paper, we're gonna find the middle right there, and we're gonna make about a 1 inch, 1 inch square all the way around. Now you can eyeball it, or you can use your ruler. So I'm gonna use my ruler just because I'm making a video and I wanna make it nice. Okay, so I'm gonna box that out. And notice that I didn't really go over this side because Spain is actually gonna kind of make it look like a sideways house. But what does a house usually have? A door. So I'm gonna put a little door in the corner over here. And this is actually Portugal. Portugal. Okay. And then to finish out Spain, I actually am gonna go over and I'm gonna make a little dot in the middle, kind of just in the middle of that. And I'm gonna make a little triangle. So as if a house was laying sideways. There we go. Now we have Spain. Okay. Now we're gonna make France. So at the corner of Great Britain, we're gonna go down and find the halfway between Spain and the United Kingdom, and we're gonna just put a dot and just follow it right on down. I kind of like to use dots to help with guidelines, just knowing where to go from. They kind of directionally point me places. Now I'm gonna find the right corner of the United Kingdom, and I'm gonna do a dot just below that. And then I'm going to keep following this way. So we've gotten one here, go across, then I'm gonna go down just a bit and stick to the right. There, it's basically lined up with this dot. And then I might actually just scooch this down just a smidge. Okay. Then I'm going to keep going down and I'm gonna find about halfway between these two dots. Okay, so the next dot we're going to make is coming down. You're going to make a dot that is from the corner of the little house to the dot we just made. And now we're gonna connect them all. Okay, so I'm gonna start with the corner of Spain to that first dot we made. Then I'm gonna go across. Then I'm just gonna follow this dots all the way around. And then we've made France. Okay, wanna make sure you spell everything correctly. Okay, now in between this dot in Spain and the top of the house, we're gonna put a little dot for Andorra. Again, it is a little country, so we're gonna make sure we identify it with a little dot. Okay, now we're gonna I call it the BND. It is Belgium, the Netherlands, and Denmark. First, to make this, we're gonna take our dot at the corner of France, and I'm just gonna diagonally place it, and then at the intersection of that, I'm just gonna put a dot. So I just made a line. I'm going to take the second dot on France below it and make a triangle, okay? Then I'm going to cut it in half. Whenever you can use your ruler, use your ruler. And you're gonna have to squeeze 2 countries in here, which is a little tricky. So if you need to go outside of it, that's fine. This is Belgium. And then this is the Netherlands. Very big word for a little spot. Okay, now we get to do a little swoopy swoop, like a little roller coaster. We're gonna go up. No, this is no ruler. I'm just gonna go up and curve around, and then I'm gonna just go across. Okay, I'm just gonna go across almost to the edge, almost to that line, but I'm gonna stop. Okay, and then this is Denmark. Fun fact about Denmark, the Kingdom of Denmark also had, part of the Kingdom of Denmark is Greenland. So Greenland is actually a North American, it's like it's connected to the North American continent countries, but it's actually part of Europe. So kind of fun fact. We're not gonna draw that because it's off this piece of paper, but just kind of a fun fact. Okay, now we're gonna make something that I like to call the princess countries. Why are they called the princess countries? They are called the princess countries because if you've ever watched a Hallmark movie or you've ever watched, you know, a Disney movie or something like that, there are these countries that end in ia, that some person has found out that they have inherited the kingdom and they're now going to become king or queen of it, and they always end in ia. So I imagine that it would be in this location of some sort. Okay, so I just drew a line that is basically in line with Finland, and then I'm just gonna make basically a rectangle. And they're just stacked on top of each other. Lithuania is actually a little bit bigger, like longer, but for the sake of our countries, we're just gonna make 3 countries going straight down. So this one is Estonia. So you imagine there'd be some princess somewhere, some normal girl that just found out that she is, has a relative that she's going to inherit the kingdom. So Estonia, Latvia, and Lithuania. Lithuania is, again, a longer one. Yeah. Okay. And, but we got it in there. Now, I'm going to diagonally connect that one because we're going to just keep connecting these to Russia. And I'm going to go ahead and just write Russia now, because this whole landmass is going to be there. All right, now we've got the whole top. Okay, now we're going to make Germany, Poland, and Belarus. And we're going to start at the corner of France. And remember that little dot we made here underneath? That is actually where we're going to go ahead and start. So we're going to draw a line that's going to go over and kind of think of like where Denmark is. It's not an exact. And then we're going to go up just below the 40-degree line. And then we're going to go across till we hit Lithuania. So I'm actually going to go ahead and turn my map this way so I can see where Lithuania, the corner of Lithuania starts. Okay, and I went across, and I'm now going to draw straight up. And that basically is, and then we're going to cut it. We're going to cut right at about, I'm going to go about here. It's kind of the corner. Okay, so this is going to be Germany, and this is Poland. And now we're going to make Belarus. So Belarus, you're going to start at the corner. So where Poland is, you're going to go up the corner of here, of this, and you're going to go across and over the 30-degree line. Then we're going to go, it's kind of like a racetrack. We're going to go up this way, and then over to Lithuania. So again, and I'm going to turn my paper just so I can see what's happening. Go over to Lithuania. Okay, so again, I went over, past 30 degrees, up, and then over. Okay, and this is Belarus. This always makes me think of the Olympics when I was a kid. Okay, now we're going to jump down. Okay, we're going to start here. We're going to start with Switzerland. So if you find the quarter of Germany, and right here, this dot on France, we're going to go in the middle here, and we're going to go across about halfway and break that like that. And that's going to be Switzerland. We should be able to count how many Switzerland little countries we're squeezing into long names into little countries. Okay, now we're gonna start at the bottom of Switzerland. We're actually gonna go all the way across to almost where Poland is and make a line. So I'm gonna stop about the corner and just kind of eyeball it and then come down. This is gonna create a little box, like we're gonna make a little present. So we're gonna cut that in half. Then we're gonna cut that whole thing in half. And it's like you have a little present. Okay, so this is the Czech Republic. We've got Slovakia. And then we've got Hungary, not hungry like your stomach. And then we've got Austria. So Austria has this little tiny bit over here. Austria. So not confused with Australia. Austria. Now, in between Switzerland and Austria, we're going to put a little dot. And we're going to call this Liechtenstein. Again, we're trying to squeeze this very long name, Liechtenstein. There you go. Okay, now we're gonna make the top of it's like a boot, and that's Italy. This one is super fun to draw. Okay, so you're gonna take your corner that you just made. So you made Switzerland, you're gonna jump down a little bit of a dot, one dot, and you're gonna come over and you're gonna go down and just kind of making a little boot. You can be as fun and fancy as you'd like. It isn't really a boot, but actually does really look like a boot. Okay, and then we're gonna come to the top, and it's right where as if you were to come all the way down through these countries, you're gonna stop. Okay, and then this is gonna be Italy. Let's see. Now, Italy has a few of those little microstates as well. One of them, this country right here, is Monaco. So at the top of your boot, we have Monaco. Okay, and then in the back hamstring of imagine if this was a leg, the back hamstring, right here, San Marino. Now I'm gonna come down this way because there's gonna be a whole lot of countries right here. If you haven't, I don't usually like my students to write really small, but this is their opportunity to show all their tiny writing. Okay, now on the other side, down a little bit, is Vatican City. So if you are Catholic, this is the place. So Vatican City, this is where the Pope lives. City. Okay, all right, now, and there's a little island here. This is called Sicily. You can label it or not label it. It's not its own country, but it's definitely a landmass that's down here. And then down below that is Malta. And there's actually two other islands over here. One is as a French province, and then there's an Italy one here. It is Corsica and Sardinia. So, but we're not gonna label those ones. Okay, our next one that we're gonna do is we're just gonna top this off, take the corner of where Hungary and Austria meet, and we're gonna just make a little, almost like a little cheese slice right here. This is Slovenia. So there's Slovakia, and then there's Slovenia. S-L-O-V-E-N-I, Slovenia. Okay, there's one other country that I want to mention that we have to put in here, and it is the corner of where Germany, Belgium, France, they all meet. This one right here, that little corner, that is Luxembourg. So I want to make sure we put that one in there. Lux, L-U-X. Okay, if you ever got Scrabble words and you get an X, there you go. You can get some good points for this one. Luxembourg. Okay, and that is the first part of the European map that we're going to do. The last portion that we're going to do is this area down here. Okay, so we're going to start here. We're going to take the top of Slovenia. Actually, let's go ahead and start here. We're going to go start at Hungary, and we're going to go to the bottom of Hungary, and then we're gonna go across almost to the line, but we're gonna leave a little space. Then we're gonna jump up to Belarus, and below Belarus at this line, we're gonna go across, and let me jump over with my ruler. Draw a line so that it goes just below now and over. All right, now you'll notice that there's a little space here. We're gonna go ahead and put a country here. We're gonna draw a little circle, and we're gonna call that Moldova. Moldova. Okay, and then Ukraine. Okay, all right. Now we're gonna jump down and we're going to go over here and we're gonna make a bunch of countries. So just like we have like a little Italy boot, we're gonna make another one that's a little bit wider. We're gonna start at Slovenia and we're gonna come down, and I'm just gonna go ahead and free draw it. I'm gonna drop down a little bit lower and I'm gonna make it a little bit wider. And then I'm gonna stop at the top of that boot. And then I'm gonna come down, and then I'm gonna make another little country. Fun fact about this country, so the last time I made this Europe map, this was called something else. It was called FYROM, the Yugoslav Republic of Macedonia. But in 2019, it officially changed its name. Greece and Macedonia were having disagreements on the name, and so they finally decided to call it North Macedonia. So that's what we're gonna call it. We're gonna designate it with an N, kind of like Northern Ireland when we were doing that one. Okay, then we're just gonna go ahead and chop that little boot part off, and we're gonna call this Greece. Okay, and while we're here, we might as well come over to Moldova and down, and then from the top of the toe of the boot. Okay, so now we've got two large sections. Let's go ahead and chop this one up, then we're gonna chop that one up, and then we're done. Okay, so halfway in between these two, this big rectangle, we're gonna cut this in half, and then we're gonna take the top rectangle and we're gonna make a little rainbow. This is called Croatia, and then I also think it's fun because it kind of looks like the beak of a crow. And then what is the beak of the crow eating? Bosnia. Plus, okay, here's a big one. Herzegovina. 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 So again, sticking these little big names and little countries. Okay, now we're gonna cut this in half again. And then we're gonna cut the bottom one in half. All right, so now we've got three more countries. Montenegro, Albania. We used to have a little rhyme for this one and I can't remember it. Kosovo. I love doing mnemonic devices if you can, like when we did poor Spanish farmers grow pork, beans, and rice. It's like the first letter of each name, each country, just to help me remember the order of things. There's nothing to say about Spanish farmers at all. It's just helpful. We came up with that one in class one time, just to remember. Poor Spanish farmers grow pork, beans, rice. We had another one down here, and I just don't remember what it is. Okay, then we're gonna make a rectangle. So Hungary is right here, and we're gonna come straight down and over. This is Serbia. Okay, then we're going to, from the corner of Serbia over, we've got Romania and Bulgaria. Okay. There's a little part of Turkey that is also part of Europe, but it's a little farther over, so we're not going to include that, but it is included in our Asia map. Okay, the last thing that I want to mention is that we need a compass rose to help us give direction. So north, east, south, west. You can do fancy and do the cross, but no, sometimes we do never eat soggy waffles, but everybody does soggy waffles if you put syrup on it. So never eat slimy worms. All right, so this is most of Europe. There are some small islands that are included, but these are the recognized countries in the political system. So there you go.